People in the renewable industry are very creative at coming up with all sorts of math to tell you that renewable energy is much cheaper than nuclear or coal or many other of the options out there. So I, as a nuclear professional and as a power generation professional, went and consulted Oracle on this, gave it a lot of input and information that it can confirm itself, and asked it to create a breakdown over an 80-year period with regards to renewable energy. And I specifically looked at wind, solar and nuclear with regards to cost. And this cost is given in dollars and megawatt hours, just for comparison's sake. And the 80-year life cycle breakdown is basically calculating every dollar spent from generation to the end user's meter. In other words, delivered to your house. Because what many of the renewable proponents do not tell you is that there's a grid that needs to be maintained, that the power needs to travel over. Something Eskom gets a lot of flack for, but they won't tell you the true cost of actually keeping wind and solar supplying the grid. Because when they are not supplying, you need many other things to actually happen to keep the grid stable. And so people are just basically being lied to, and I'm breaking those lies down now. And tonight at 7 o'clock, I will be doing, or maybe at 8 o'clock, sorry, I will be doing a live stream where I will cover this in detail for those that are interested. So I will put out information that will shock many people, because the real math, when you ask the real questions, changes the entire scenario. So let's look at the results. So this is done over 80 years. It includes capital, so the money to do it, replacement, having to replace something, firming storage, in other words, being able to make the storage work for you, grid conditioning, in other words, the grid needs to be maintained stable. Then maintenance, and then decommissioning, in the case of nuclear power stations or wind or solar, removing the solar panels and the wind turbines when you have to replace it. Remember, this is over an 80-year cycle, where a nuclear power station can run for the full 80 years without replacement. So nuclear power then comes out at $160 to $240 per megawatt hour. Okay, so high upfront costs in the first decade, followed by 70 years of incredibly cheap, predictable baseload operation with minimal grid intervention. And this is what most countries in the world know. Most governments know this. Engineers know this. But there was a lot of money to be made on the short term. You must have power now and it's produced really cheap, without looking at all the hidden costs that people are not seeing. So I included decommissioning here, so people can't say, but you haven't included that. So $160 to $240 per megawatt hour. Then we go to wind, firmed and conditioned. Okay, so this is what it needs to supply the grid. $280 to $420 per megawatt hour. So at the highest end of nuclear, this is $40 per megawatt hour more at the lower end, and it extends up to $420 per megawatt hour. Low initial generation cost, so the cost of generating low, but they was devastated economically by the requirement to purchase 4 separate generations of turbines. So you would have to replace the turbines over that time period. Massive battery, hydro storage buffers, and continuous grid balancing operations over 80 years. So it looks at the need to balance that grid over that time period because of the intermittency of wind. So people need to see the real cost. When it comes to solar, it increases dramatically. So solar PV, firmed and conditioned, $350. Remember, nuclear, the entry level was $160. Wind, the entry level was $280. Solar, the entry level is $350 per megawatt hours to $520 per megawatt hour. The cheapest raw energy at the panel, 100%, I fully agree with that. But the most expensive system-wide options over 80 years. It suffers the worst capacity factor penalty, requiring massive overbuilding, multiple panel and inverter replacements, and gargantuan energy storage arrays to maintain grid stability overnight. And basically what people are being told, especially if you look at this China deal of our South African government, is that we just need wind and solar. We don't need coal, we don't need nuclear, we don't need any of these other things. This is what the politicians are being sold by people in the industry, people at universities that do not understand running grids. And because I've been a nuclear professional since 1992, I ran the nuclear reactors at Kubo, connected generators to the grid. I've seen how grid frequencies fluctuate during blackouts, brownouts, etc. I have real world experience that none of these people have. So the next thing I want to look at quickly, so the cost, you cannot compare nuclear to any of the others. Nuclear wins hands down, and that will always be the case. If you look at the next table with regards to the 80-year window evaluation, if you look at nuclear power, you will see that there's certain things that it wins at, other things that wind or solar wins at. But overall, a composite 80-year pro index for a professional, not the narrative, not the mainstream media, real physics and engineering. Nuclear sits at 92.5%, wind power sits at 46.6%, and solar PV sits at 39.1%. So overall consideration, and here if I look at the details, asset longevity and reinvestment, nuclear gets 100%, 1 bolt plus midlife refurbishment, wind power 25%, solar PV 30%. Decommissioning and waste legacy, 85% for nuclear, strict pre-funded compact, which means that you have to provide for that funding right up front with a nuclear power station. That's part of the cost. Wind power 40%, massive landfall, blade crisis. Solar PV 30%, severe e-waste and toxic leaching. Grid infrastructure and capital cost 100% for nuclear, uses existing hubs native. 35% for wind, massive remote HVDC expansion, which is what China is supposed to do in South Africa now to make this magical fairy tale of theirs work. Solar PV 20%, extreme grid oversizing required. Okay, then grid maintenance and conditioning. Nuclear gets 100%, provides free inertia to the grid. Wind power 30%, accelerates transformer wear, in and out, in and out. Solar PV gets 15%, severe thermal stress on the grid. And this is something people do not understand. The mainstream media don't talk about it. And if there's any journalists out there that watch this, you can contact me and I will give you an education. I will give you all the little details that you need to actually understand how a grid needs to work. Okay, and if we don't want a national grid, if we want to fracture the country into many different sections, it's a completely different ballgame, and you start to make things even exceptionally more complicated on these smaller grids. Larger grids, more stable. Smaller grids, very unstable. Then fuel and operational predictability. So 70% that nuclear scores, uranium fuel cost is stable. Wind and solar gets 100% here because zero fuel cost for both of those. Then total system cost of delivery. Nuclear gets 100%, lower system-wide cost. Wind power 50%, high overbuild and turnover cost. And then solar PV 40%, extreme storage turnover costs. So in the end, nuclear over an 80-year span, because that's what you need to look at. You need to look at a nuclear power station can be built for an 80-year period, and then you need to look at wind and solar, and you're looking at 92.5% for nuclear over that period, 46.6% for wind over that period, and 39.1% for solar PV over that period. And if you had to find out if your country can build nuclear, whether you would need any wind or solar, the answer is no. If you have pumped storage schemes like we have in South Africa with Ngula, Drakensberg, and and then we have Palmit as well, and you have open cycle gas turbines that you can run on gas for peaking. You don't need any wind and or solar power because it's just ridiculously expensive. If you look at these other options, Eskom had the right idea originally when they tested those wind turbines, the 3 wind turbines at Klippiewil. They realized very quickly that this is a complete waste of their time, and they scrapped them just like they should have. And all that's happened in the meantime is overseas companies have made an absolute fortune. They've charged you an arm and a leg, which has been forced into your Eskom price that you pay, that you are so cursing and swearing over right now. And just understand, at this stage, solar and wind is 8 to 9% of South Africa's energy supply, but it's a quarter of the cost of the fuel. Literally, of producing the electricity, you are paying a quarter of that bill for 8 to 9% overall supply. There's a big mismatch there, and once people start to understand this and see where the rest of the world is going, moving away from this insanity, yeah, you will understand that our government is absolutely going the wrong direction with this China deal, where China is going to build the infrastructure so that more wind and solar can go onto the grid. So the ideal percentage of wind and solar on a grid that you should cap it at is 10 to 15%. Nothing more than that. And the moment you put more than that on the grid, you are looking for trouble. If you can have pump storage or gas turbines, leave the solar and the wind for the large grid. Put that in your backyard. Use it for your industry. Use it for your factory, or whatever the case may be. Become energy self-reliant using batteries and solar power. Keep it off the grid. It doesn't belong there unless you don't have other options. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please share it with as many people as possible, and like and subscribe to this channel, where I will give you the basic scientific engineering based facts that is difficult for anyone to argue with because it's based on science. Thanks so much. Till the next video.